That's right.
I'm back.
Apologies to those that didn't know, but I've been doing work experience for the past 6 weeks in London. I don't live there, so I've been very busy working and commuting to the point where I just couldn't get anything done. If you were following the Facebook page, you would have known that because I always post updates on there, so hopefully that should compel you to like the page. Anyway, the reason this review in particular has taken so long for me to do is because the Wolverine only just came out in the UK, and for some reason I thought it was coming out in November, and I've been so distracted, so I was kinda caught off guard when I started seeing reviews for it. I know I've never really gone into detail about my relationship with the X-Men movies, and while I will undoubtedly review them all eventually,
Stop asking.
here's a quick little sum up of my views on X-Men 3 and X-Men Origins Wolverine. The Last Stand I actually think is great. I mean, how could I not? Arnold's back, he does a great job, and the action kicks ass, and I love Johnny Knoxville playing the funny sidekick. Oh wait, you meant X-Men 3, The Last Stand. Well, this film is pretty boring. There are moments I like in the film, and I think Kelsey Grammer as Beast is just the most perfect casting choice for a comic book character I've ever seen. But where the film sparks my interest at the beginning, it also makes my jaw drop at some of the questionable decisions made regarding certain characters in the film, and the plot is kind of all over the place. Unfortunately, the things that I like don't keep the film on a high note for me, and I'm kinda glad that a lot of the things that happened in the film will probably be changed or undone via time travel in Days of Future Past. People horribly exaggerate just how bad X-Men Origins Wolverine is. Yeah, the movie is bad. Wolverine fighting in wars, getting a girlfriend, having bone claws, Weapon X, Sabretooth, all that stuff is great in concept, but the problem is the film tries to pack like 7 different Wolverine comics into this one film, which makes the narrative really inconsistent and contrived. Wolverine's also a fucking idiot in this. He trusts people that are obviously villains, and he makes stupid decisions 24/7. However, on a superficial level, I personally find the film quite entertaining. Oh, it's dumb. It's really dumb. But it's still fun, so I don't jump on the bandwagon to trash it a lot. I completely understand why some people even hate it, but I really don't think it's as bad as something like Batman and Robin. The bad CG claws are the same complaint as the bat nipples. At the end of the day, those are just nitpicks. If you don't like the film, then okay, I don't like certain films too, but give genuine reasons instead of simply, they raped Deadpool. So let's jump right into my thoughts on the Wolverine. I thought this film was very good. How about that? I actually liked a new superhero movie. I was amazed at just how refreshing this entire film came across to me. It really doesn't feel like a superhero film I've seen before, and I guess one of the reasons is probably because it's a brand new one-off story without worrying about an origin or an overly complex backstory. We have Wolverine after X-Men 3, he gets called to go visit some old man he saved once decades ago, and shit starts happening. A very nice simple setup and story. The second reason it felt refreshing was its setting in Japan and the diverse cast. This film will undoubtedly be successful overseas with its Japanese audience. The main theme of the Wolverine seems to be life and death. I'm really happy we finally had a film that explored the idea of Wolverine having had enough of life and wanting to die. After all, the character has lived for hundreds of years, and as Yoshida, the elderly man, says at the beginning of the movie, a man can run out of things to live for. Hugh Jackman? I love this guy. The fact that he has so much passion for the character of Logan that he kept pushing to get an independent movie based on Wolverine in Japan even after Origins flopped is just awesome. You gotta give this guy a lot of credit for showing so much faith in the source material. And I must say I'm very happy that this is the turnout of his second attempt, because this really feels like the film he wanted to make from day one. I love that it takes place almost entirely in Japan, and there's a sense of honour in the fights, and then you just have Wolverine telling them all to go fuck themselves, and then he just rages and slices them all. It's a very funny concept. So many people are jumping to point out that if you take away Wolverine's healing factor, he would die from the adamantium surrounding his bones and his claws would completely ruin his hands. First of all, this is a superhero movie. If you don't suspend your disbelief, then you're going to be an absolute bore watching these kind of films. And second, was I the only one that heard someone come out and say that his powers were suppressed? That line for me perfectly explained why his wounds still hurt him and why he wasn't healing much, but he was still able to get up and take all those gunshots. He still had his powers, they were just suppressed. I'm hearing a lot of people say that this was too far from the source material, and I gotta admit, I never read the Chris Claremont run that focused on Wolverine's training in Japan, but the film took a different approach. It had an intriguing plot and story, and I felt whatever deviated from the source material was probably justified because on my end, everything seemed to work. Overall. That's my main thing. Overall, this film was very good. But wow, I know that the X-Men movies are kinda infamous for continuity errors, but just wow, this movie pushes his luck. There are so many things that simply don't make sense in the already established continuity set up in the previous films. FYI, I know that Origins is no longer considered canon, but I reckon that's probably because the film itself doesn't know. There are even one or two things that don't make sense in the film itself, and there are things that will make you ask, do his powers really work like that? But luckily those things are tiny. Fortunately, the only people that are going to really notice these things are fans, or people at least following the movies, which is why they don't ruin the film. It just focuses more on the overall important stuff like the characters and the story, and to be honest, I respect that. Nitpick to your heart's content, at the end of the day they don't damage the film. If there are any down points to the film, I'll go ahead and say it's the second act. Not that it isn't intriguing, because it does use its time to focus on characters, but you go through about a third of the movie with almost no action. That didn't really bother me, and again it was refreshing after seeing a film that had the action running for what seemed like hours on end, but if you just want to see Wolverine rage for 2 hours, bear in mind that the middle chunk is a little slower than the rest of the film. However, the action that is here is just awesome. The sequence where Wolverine fights the bad guys on one of those bullet trains was so intense and exciting. The physics all worked, and when people got hit or fell off, it was really heart-stopping and admittedly quite funny. All the other action scenes were a lot of fun as well, and one thing that differs this from other films with Wolverine is that I genuinely feared for his life, which caused the fight scenes to have this great intensity, and it causes you to really root for him to win. I hear that once again this is a film that people are divided on, and like I said, I don't know how far this deviated from the source material, but in the context of the film itself, the material worked, and it really remained true to the character of Logan, and told a story about him rediscovering his purpose, which is why I'm perfectly happy to call this the Wolverine movie. I respect how low-key this film is, and I also respect that the fights weren't so over the top as other superhero films feel the need to be. They were more intimate, like how ninjas and those trained in martial arts fight. We don't need to see fights that level the city all the time. As long as you keep focused on the essence of the character, tell a story about that character going through an arc, with a bit of action, some emotional weight, and some fun twists and turns, you wind up with a very satisfying, entertaining film like The Wolverine. Is The Wolverine a masterpiece? No. Should it be? Of course not. I go into a Wolverine movie expecting 3 things: Hugh Jackman raging, fun action, and a film that takes the time to focus on him as the main character. And considering there was more emotional context than I had expected, I was very satisfied. So yeah, I actually like this film. Let's hope that this is a sign that not all new superhero movies suck. Cheers for watching guys, and as always if you like this video, you can subscribe to my channel.